California's housing market is finally doing the one thing it was never supposed to do: break. For years, you heard the same story on repeat. Bay Area bidding wars, tiny SoCal bungalows trading for 7 figures, and 900-square-foot condos priced like small countries. The assumption was simple: prices might wobble, but they never really fall. That assumption is gone. Behind the palm trees, ocean views, and coffee shops, a brutal correction is underway. In some cities, home values are not inching down, they are dropping by 40, 50, even 80% from their peak listing fantasies. For anyone thinking about buying in California or trying to hang on to a home they purchased during the frenzy, knowing where that damage is concentrated could easily mean a 6-figure difference over the next decade. Today on Discover the Nation, we are counting down 10 California cities where the correction has turned into something closer to a collapse. We will walk through the numbers, the local economies, the insurance and climate pressures, and the simple reality that not every zip code recovers the same way. If you live in one of these markets or you are thinking about moving into one, this is the kind of information you want before you sign anything. Take a second to like this video and subscribe to Discover the Nation so you do not miss the next deep dive. Now, let us begin.
Number 10. Valencia. You arrive in Valencia, and at first glance, it looks like the Southern California workaround. A master-planned community in the Santa Clarita Valley with clean streets, shopping centers, and neighborhoods that for years felt like a calmer, more manageable alternative to coastal Los Angeles. In the early 2021s, median home prices here pushed well into the high $700,000 to low $800,000 range. Today, many recent sales are closing noticeably lower, and in some pockets, sellers are accepting discounts in the 20 to 30% range from their peak expectations, with larger cuts on certain newer or highly leveraged properties. Listing sites tell the story. Price reduced, back on market, and seller motivated appear again and again. It is not that the homes themselves are fundamentally flawed. It is that the buyer pool willing to pay peak suburban prices while facing higher mortgage rates and rising costs has shrunk. Some of the households who moved here during the remote work boom, attracted by good schools and a perceived value trade-off versus Los Angeles proper, are now reassessing whether they can afford to stay as overall expenses climb. Local dynamics add another layer. Santa Clarita and its surrounding communities have invested heavily in infrastructure and amenities, but that also means ongoing costs in the form of taxes, assessments, and, in many neighborhoods, homeowners association dues. For owners who bought near the top of the market with smaller down payments, even a moderate price decline can erase equity quickly. At the same time, major insurers have tightened their approach in many parts of California. Some Valencia homeowners have reported higher renewal quotes or changes in coverage terms, especially in areas more exposed to heat or wildfire risk. The result is a market where local families are more cautious, outside buyers are negotiating harder, and a subset of recent purchasers are quietly considering exits rather than committing to years of uncertain appreciation. Valencia still offers strong schools, planned neighborhoods, and relative convenience to greater Los Angeles, but the gap between the glossy marketing image and the financial realities of ownership has become more apparent. Would you buy into this version of suburban California, even at a discount? Tell us in the comments.
Number 9. Newport Beach. For years, people treated Newport Beach as the polished side of Southern California coastal living, a place where high prices were justified by lifestyle, prestige, and limited supply. It was the kind of market where buyers assumed that values only moved in one direction over the long run. During the recent surge, that confidence helped push median home prices in some parts of Newport Beach well into the multi-million-dollar range, with waterfront properties and view homes selling at aggressive premiums. By 2025, the tone has shifted. In several segments, sellers are now accepting offers far below earlier list prices, and some higher-end properties have seen meaningful percentage declines from peak valuations. The pattern behind this change is familiar. Low interest rates, strong stock market gains, and remote work flexibility fueled demand from both primary residents and second home buyers. Investors in high-income households bought condos, townhomes, and single-family properties with the expectation of continued appreciation and strong rental demand. As borrowing costs rose and financial markets became more volatile, that pool of buyers narrowed. Listings in certain luxury and near-luxury tiers now sit longer, with price reductions and incentives becoming more common. Carry-in costs have also become more visible. Insurance premiums along the coast have moved higher as carriers reassess risk related to wind, storm, and wildfire exposure in California. Some owners have had to seek coverage through more limited options at higher prices. Property taxes, based on assessments established during peak years, remain substantial. Homeowners association fees in gated communities and condominium complexes add another fixed layer, especially where aging buildings and shared amenities require ongoing investment. For buyers who once viewed Newport Beach as a simple store of wealth, the current environment is a reminder that even prestigious coastal markets are subject to broader financial and policy shifts. For owners, decisions about whether to hold, renovate, or list are more complicated than they appeared a few years ago. If you've watched this market from the inside or considered it from afar, share how rising costs and changing conditions have influenced your view of coastal real estate.
Number 8. Oakland. Oakland sits just across the bay from San Francisco, and for years was framed as the more attainable option for Bay Area buyers. During the early 2020s, that story drove an enormous wave of demand. As remote workers and priced-out San Francisco households looked for alternatives, median home prices in many Oakland neighborhoods climbed sharply, with some areas seeing values well above $800,000 at the peak. Since then, asking prices and closed sales in several segments have moved meaningfully lower, and sellers are discovering that the market no longer absorbs listings at any price. The dynamics behind this shift are layered. As tech hiring slowed and more employers pushed hybrid schedules, some buyers reconsidered paying near premium Bay Area prices without the same confidence in long-term job growth. Higher mortgage rates reduced purchasing power just as more inventory began to hit the market. Condominiums and small single-family homes that once attracted multiple offers now sit longer, and price reductions have become common, especially in properties that need updating or carry higher monthly costs. Those ongoing monthly costs matter in Oakland. Property taxes, association dues in condo and townhouse communities, and insurance premiums all weigh on household budgets. Some neighborhoods near the wildland-urban interface face elevated wildfire considerations, while older housing stock in other parts of the city brings its own repair and maintenance needs. Insurance carriers have become more selective in portions of California, and some owners report facing higher premiums or more restrictive coverage terms, which can complicate both refinancing and resale. Quality of life and perception also play a role. Oakland remains a culturally rich, diverse city with strong neighborhoods, but concerns about crime, uneven public investment, and aging infrastructure influence how some potential buyers assess risk. For longtime residents who purchased before the run-up, the recent cooling may simply feel like a normalization. For those who bought closer to the top of the market with smaller down payments, even modest price declines combined with higher costs can create pressure. Oakland is still a key part of the Bay Area story, but it is no longer just the cheaper alternative narrative that dominated a few years ago. It has become an example of how quickly conditions can change when interest rates rise, employment patterns shift, and carrying costs become more visible in buyer calculations. If you have watched this city's housing market from the inside or from across the bridge, tell us how the last few years have changed your view.
Number 7. Riverside. Riverside has long held itself out as the inland alternative to the coastal sprawl of Southern California. In the early 2020s, it became a central chapter in the Inland Empire housing surge. By 2021, median home prices were approaching $570,000. As of mid-2025, that figure is closer to $410,000, with some areas seeing 30 to 50% markdowns from peak listing ambitions and significant gaps between list price and final sale price. Inventory metrics send a clear signal. Homes that once went under contract in days are now taking months. Price reductions are no longer the exception. They are part of the standard listing timeline. Many sellers are offering closing cost credits, temporary rate buydowns, and other concessions to meet cautious buyers halfway. Some listings cycle on and off the market as owners test different price points and terms. The economic backdrop matters. Riverside's job base relies heavily on logistics, warehousing, and distribution, sectors that expanded rapidly during the height of e-commerce growth. As that growth moderates and automation increases, hiring has slowed in some key facilities.
Paychecks that seemed secure in 2021 now feel less guaranteed, and households are more cautious about stretching for large mortgage commitments or buying larger homes farther from employment centers. At the same time, cost pressures keep rising. Water rates have moved up as regional drought management policies shift. Insurance premiums reflect wildfire and heat exposure. Homeowners associations and many master-planned communities add their own monthly fees and rules. For some families, the math has tipped from just manageable to uncomfortable, especially when wages lag behind rising fixed costs. House flippers who counted on quick resales at ever higher prices are finding themselves holding partially renovated properties with fewer exit options. Some projects have paused midstream, leaving pockets of half-completed homes scattered across otherwise stable neighborhoods and sending a visual signal that the boom phase has ended. Riverside shows how a market can move from perceived safe value to a slower, more uncertain environment when job growth, costs, and buyer confidence all change at once. It is a reminder that inland does not automatically mean insulated. Would you choose this as your alternative to Los Angeles in 2025? Let us know.
Number 6. Laguna Beach. Laguna Beach has long been marketed as the refined version of coastal California living, a place where art galleries, oceanfront trails, and boutique hotels sit alongside multi-million-dollar homes on the hillsides. During the recent boom, that image drew intense buyer interest. By 2021, median home prices in parts of Laguna Beach had climbed well into the multi-million-dollar range, with many standard single-family homes trading above $3 million. By 2025, resale data and listing trends show meaningful reductions, with cuts of 30 to 40% from peak asking levels on some high-end properties, and deeper discounts in slower-moving segments. The pressure starts with costs that extend far beyond the purchase price. Property taxes are substantial when assessed on peak valuations, and those bills do not adjust downward quickly when list prices fall. At the same time, insurance has become a major stress point. Laguna Beach faces a combination of coastal exposure, landslide concerns in hillside areas, and broader wildfire risk. Several major insurers have tightened their standards or reduced their footprint, leaving many owners reliant on state-backed or specialty policies at higher premiums and with stricter terms. Financing and buyer psychology have shifted as well. Higher interest rates mean the pool of households able to support a large mortgage, significant tax obligations, and elevated insurance costs is smaller than it was during the zero-rate era. Some homes that once attracted multiple offers above asking now sit on the market for months, cycling through staged photos, price reductions, and renewed marketing campaigns. In some cases, luxury listings that initially appeared well above $5 million have returned at much lower numbers after extended time unsold. The local economy still benefits from tourism, hospitality, and professional income from nearby job centers, but even well-positioned buyers are more cautious about taking on peak pricing in a market where climate risks, regulation, and carrying costs are central concerns. For owners who bought late in the cycle, the combination of softer valuations and rising expenses can feel like the ground shifting under their feet. Laguna Beach remains visually striking and globally recognizable, but the current adjustment shows how even prestigious coastal enclaves are not immune to broader housing and insurance pressures. If you once saw this city as a safe bet for long-term real estate wealth, the last few years may have changed that calculation.
Number 5. Burbank. Burbank has long been marketed as one of the more stable corners of the Los Angeles region, a city anchored by major studios, steady entertainment industry employment, and established neighborhoods rather than speculative sprawl. During the recent boom, that reputation drew intense buyer demand. By the early 2022s, median home prices in parts of Burbank had pushed well into the high 6 and low 7 figures, with many standard 3-bedroom homes trading above $1 million. By 2025, resale data and listing patterns point to a clear reset, with meaningful price reductions across several segments and deeper cuts on properties that initially reached for peak-era valuation. The pressure starts with total cost of ownership. Property taxes assessed on those boom-time values remain substantial and do not adjust down quickly when asking prices fall.
At the same time, insurance has become more complicated and more expensive. Portions of the foothill and hillside areas face wildfire and slope stability concerns, while older housing stock elsewhere can require upgrades to meet current standards. Some owners have received higher renewal quotes or have had to shop among a narrower set of carriers, often at elevated premiums and with tighter coverage terms. Higher interest rates have also reshaped buyer behavior. The pool of households able to comfortably support a large mortgage, significant tax obligations, and rising insurance costs is smaller than it was during the ultra-low rate period. Homes that once attracted multiple offers within days now may stay on the market for weeks or months, moving through staged photos, incremental price reductions, and offers of closing cost credits or temporary rate buy-downs. In a few notable cases, properties that first appeared at aspirational seven-figure list prices have returned at lower numbers after extended time unsold. Burbank still benefits from proximity to major employers, strong regional transportation links, and a recognizable brand as a studio city. Yet even here, buyers and owners are confronting the reality that headline prices are only one part of the equation. The combination of softer valuations, higher carrying costs, and evolving climate and insurance risk has made long-term planning more complex. If you once viewed Burbank as a safe harbor in the wider Southern California housing story, the current adjustment may have prompted a closer look at what stability really costs.
Number 4. Bakersfield. Bakersfield has often been marketed as one of the last remaining affordable cities in California, a place where you could still buy a single-family home without entering the bidding war with institutional investors. That narrative drew significant interest during the pandemic years. By 2022, median home prices in Bakersfield approached $400,000. Today, they sit closer to $265,000, about a one-third decline, with some outer neighborhoods marking price cuts above 40% from peak asking levels as sellers test lower and lower prices just to generate showings. The local economy explains much of the stress. Oil and energy have long been core pillars of employment in Kern County. In late 2024, regulatory changes and shifting energy prices brought layoffs and uncertainty to that sector. When job security weakens, the ability and willingness to stretch for mortgage payments declines. Listings stay on the market longer, and price reductions become a normal part of the selling process rather than the exception. At the same time, interest rate increases have raised the cost of borrowing. Households who might have qualified comfortably for a loan in 2021 no longer see the same approval amounts. Investors who purchased multiple properties for rental income now contend with higher financing costs, softer rent growth, and rising insurance premiums. Some are offering concessions or shorter leases to keep units occupied, which erodes the original return calculations they used when they bought. Bakersfield also ranks poorly on environmental and health indicators, including air quality metrics that regularly place it near the top of national pollution lists. While those data points may not immediately show up in listing descriptions, they influence long-term demand, especially for families thinking about multi-decade commitments or employers considering where to expand. For some owners, the combination of falling valuations, higher insurance costs due to fire and earthquake risk, and modest wage growth is pushing them towards selling or walking away. For potential buyers, the lower entry prices come with serious trade-offs in resilience, health, and job stability. Bakersfield remains one of the lower-cost housing markets in the state by headline price, but the broader context makes that affordability more complex than it appears at first glance. It is a market where price, risk, and long-term livability all have to be weighed together. Number 3. Sacramento. Sacramento, California's capital, became one of the surprise winners of the remote work migration. During the early 2020s, it was marketed as a reasonable alternative to Bay Area prices, with larger homes, established neighborhoods, and access to state government jobs. By 2021, the median home price had climbed toward the high 500s in many parts of the metro. By 2025, that figure has retreated into the mid to high 300s in several areas, and some newer subdivisions on the outskirts have recorded price declines of 30 to 40% from peak listings. The core challenge is alignment between pricing and long-term demand. When commuting was optional for many state workers and private sector employees, moving farther from the Bay while keeping a higher salary felt like a smart trade. As agencies and companies shifted back toward hybrid expectations and office presence, the appeal of longer drives along congested corridors at higher fuel prices diminished. Builders who launched large projects in 2020 and 2022 under assumptions of sustained in-migration have had to adjust. Some developments have filled more slowly than planned. Others have paused between phases, leaving stretches of completed homes next to empty lots and partially built streets. That patchwork can create a sense of uncertainty for both existing residents and prospective buyers. Environmental and insurance pressures are part of the story as well. Sacramento sits at the intersection of floodplain management, levee systems, and increasing heat. Updated mapping and risk assessments in surrounding areas, combined with broader wildfire concerns in the region, have contributed to rising insurance premiums and stricter policy terms. Higher summer cooling costs add another ongoing expense for households already watching their budgets closely. For many residents, the shift is not just financial, but psychological. Neighborhoods that felt like clear step-up destinations a few years ago now show more for sale signs and longer marketing timelines. Sacramento illustrates how quickly a value alternative can move into correction when job patterns, risk perceptions, and cost structures all change at once. If you once viewed this city as the safe middle ground between Bay Area prices and inland budgets, recent years may have prompted a full reevaluation.
Number 2. San Bernardino. San Bernardino sits at a crossroads of freeways and freight routes in the Inland Empire and has long faced economic headwinds. The recent housing cycle added a new layer of volatility. In 2021, the median home price climbed to around $410,000. By 2025, that figure is closer to $260,000, a drop of roughly 37%, with some neighborhoods experiencing much larger declines, especially where speculative buying had been strongest. Even before this downturn, San Bernardino carried one of the highest poverty rates in California. That meant fewer financial buffers for many households. As inflation rose, interest rates increased, and pandemic-era support programs wound down, more owners found themselves struggling to keep up with housing costs. Delinquency rates and distress listings increased, signaling stress long before formal foreclosure numbers fully reflected it. Crime statistics and public service strain have also influenced buyer sentiment. Reports of property crime, pressured school systems, and understaffed municipal offices create additional hesitation for families thinking about long-term commitments in the area. For some potential buyers, the question is not just what a home costs, but what kind of day-to-day environment they are buying into. Insurance and environmental risk compound the challenge. Areas at the urban edge face wildfire danger. After recent brush fires came close to residential blocks, some insurers reassessed their willingness to cover certain zones or raised premiums. For owners already working to manage mortgage payments, those increases hit hard and can force difficult choices about coverage levels. San Bernardino also has a history of municipal bankruptcy, having filed in 2012. While years have passed since that event, the perception of fiscal fragility remains in the background for some investors and buyers, particularly when they see news about budget gaps or service cuts. Taken together, the picture is of a city where home prices are falling, but that does not automatically make the market safer or more attractive for new buyers. It is a complex balance of entry price, ongoing costs, and quality of life that each household has to evaluate carefully. Would you consider buying into that equation? Share your thoughts.
Number 1. San Francisco. We end in San Francisco, the city that for decades symbolized the idea that you could not lose money on real estate if you simply held on long enough. In 2021, the median home price here exceeded $1.6 million. By 2025, that median has slipped to just above $950,000, a decline of around 40%. And several downtown condo segments have seen even steeper drops as resale demand weakened. The drivers are structural. Between 2023 and 2024, major technology employers shed tens of thousands of local jobs or shifted roles to other regions. Remote work patterns, once a source of support for local housing demand, began to work in reverse as well-paid workers realized they could live almost anywhere. Office vacancy downtown climbed into levels that would have been unimaginable a decade earlier, and plans to convert some towers to residential use have been slow and complex.
When office towers empty out and retail anchors close, the surrounding residential neighborhoods feel it. Foot traffic thins. Small businesses struggle or shut their doors. The premium that buyers once paid for proximity to headquarters and urban energy does not command the same price when storefronts are shuttered and street-level vitality is patchy. On the cost side, property taxes remain significant. Valuations do not adjust down quickly, so owners can find themselves paying bills set during the height of the market even as sale prices move lower. Insurance costs have been affected by concerns about wildfire risk in nearby regions, landslide issues in certain hillside neighborhoods, and broader statewide pressures on carriers. In some larger buildings, monthly association fees have risen to cover maintenance and security, adding another substantial fixed cost. Public debates about safety, homelessness, and quality of life have also influenced perceptions. For some potential buyers, the combination of higher taxes, elevated insurance and fee costs, and visible urban challenges outweighs the historic appeal of the city and its job market. San Francisco is still a global destination with world-class institutions and employers, but its housing market is no longer the one-way upward story it once appeared to be. The current reset shows what happens when extremely high prices meet changing work patterns, evolving risk assessments, and shifting lifestyle preferences. And it raises new questions about what long-term stability will look like here.
You have just walked through 10 California markets where the housing story has moved from rapid appreciation to serious correction. These are not small price adjustments. In many cases, they are full-scale resets that expose how dependent some local markets were on cheap money, speculative demand, and optimistic assumptions about insurance, climate, and jobs. If you are considering buying in California, past charts are not enough. You need to understand how insurance is changing, how local economies are evolving, what environmental risks are priced in, and whether the people who keep a city running can still afford to live there. If you already own in one of these places, you are living that complexity every day. If this deep dive from Discover the Nation helped you see beyond the headlines, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who is thinking about a big move, and subscribe so you do not miss our next investigation into America's changing housing markets. Tell us in the comments which city surprised you the most and which market you want us to explore next.